The first 3 hours of the flight had been calm. Then came sudden turbulence and a chilling announcement. "We need your attention. This plane is now under our control." Ibrahim Traoré had concealed his identity on the flight from Paris to Burkina Faso. Now, trapped aboard the hijacked Air France flight AF 726, with 182 terrified passengers, he sat quietly, watching. The hijackers were negotiating from the cockpit. $10 million and the release of 3 prisoners from La Santé prison in France. No other demands. If only they knew Ibrahim Traoré was in seat 178, the transitional leader of Burkina Faso. Their demands would have been very different. The plane had begun as a calm afternoon journey, filled with French tourists, business travelers, and Burkinab returning home. By the window in row 178 sat a man in simple clothes, dark shirt, blue jeans, sneakers, baseball cap, sunglasses. No one recognized him as Ibrahim Traoré. After secret diplomatic meetings in Paris, he'd chosen a low-profile flight. Official flights brought too much protocol, too much risk. The plane entered Burkina Faso's airspace. A flight attendant, carrying hot drinks, suddenly noticed 4 passengers standing. At first, she thought it was an argument, until she saw the gleam of metal, a gun. Her tray dropped, hot tea spilling everywhere. "Nobody move!" One man shouted in Arabic with a French accent. "We've taken control of the plane. Follow instructions, and no one will get hurt." Traoré remained calm. His military training told him these first moments were critical. Guns were drawn. Panic spread. Violence could erupt at any second. 2 hijackers rushed to the cockpit. 2 more took positions at the front and rear of economy class, corralling passengers. Silent tears, whispered prayers, clutching phones. Fear hung thick. "We will collect your phones, tablets, and electronic devices," the man at the back announced. "Don't resist, or the consequences will be severe." Traoré slipped his phone quietly into the side pocket. The hijackers hadn't yet gathered devices systematically. They were still establishing control through chaos. One hijacker returned from the cockpit and addressed the passengers. "Listen carefully. This plane is under our control. Our demands are simple: $10 million and the release of 3 prisoners from La Santé prison. If met, you will all return home safely." Traoré studied the man's eyes, tense, anxious, determined. Not a hardened terrorist, but someone driven by ideology. Hours passed. The plane circled over Mali, straying far from its route. The pilot, under hijacker orders, stayed airborne to buy time. Traoré observed those around him. Beside him, an elderly Burkinabe woman trembled. A few rows ahead, a mother tried soothing her 2 small children. Across the aisle, 3 French businessmen whispered nervously. "Don't worry," Traoré said softly to the woman beside him. "Everything will be all right." She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "You're Burkinabe, aren't you, my son?" "Yes, mother. We will all return home," he promised with quiet confidence. Suddenly, Traoré noticed tension in the cockpit area. One hijacker dragged a middle-aged French passenger toward the cockpit. "The negotiations aren't being taken seriously," the hijacker shouted. "Maybe if we send a hostage, they'll listen." Traoré faced a choice: reveal his identity, offer himself as a high-value hostage, risking a diplomatic crisis, or stay silent and watch the situation unfold. He stood up. "Stop!" he called out, calm but firm. "You know negotiations take time. Sudden moves lead to disaster for everyone." The hijacker turned, gun pointed at Traoré. "Who are you to tell me what to do?" "Just a passenger," Traoré replied evenly. "But I know how negotiations work. Violence only makes things worse." The hijacker hesitated, then stepped closer. "Why are you so confident? Who are you?" "I worked as a diplomat," Traoré said without lying. "I know how agreements are made. You want me to help with the negotiation?" Traoré asked. The hijacker hesitated, then glanced at the other 3 men. A quick exchange in broken Arabic, and French passed between them. Finally, the apparent leader nodded. "Okay, diplomat," he said with a mocking smile. "Show us what you can do. Come to the cockpit." Traoré stood calmly, eyes never leaving the hijackers. Slowly he walked forward. Passengers watched, holding their breath. The elderly woman beside him whispered, "God protect you, my son." Inside the cockpit, the pilot and co-pilot looked exhausted and tense. One hijacker manned the radio. "Who is this?" came the suspicious voice over the radio. "A diplomat," the leader answered. "He's here to help with negotiations." "Is this a trap? You brought a hostage?" the negotiator asked. "No," Traoré said steadily. "I'm just a passenger. I want this to end peacefully. Everyone safe. Everyone home." Traoré studied the hijackers carefully. He needed to understand their motives. "Everyone stay calm," he said to both the hijacker and the negotiator. "Your goal is money and the release of prisoners, right?" "Yes," the leader confirmed. $10 million and our brothers freed from La Santé prison. "Who are these brothers?" Traoré asked cautiously. "Malik Alzim, Riyad Hamoudi, and Omar Benani," the leader said. "They're not terrorists, freedom fighters accused of supporting the Tuareg uprising in Mali." Traoré immediately recognized the names. They were symbolic figures protesting French neo-colonialism in West Africa. "I see." Traoré nodded. "And the money?" "For the struggle," the leader said firmly. "Until France leaves Africa." Traoré understood their ideological drive. Anti-colonial sentiment ran deep across the continent. He shared the feeling, but not the violence. "May I know your names?" he asked. "I am Youssef," said the leader. "These are my brothers, Hakim, Jamal, and Ahmed." "I'm Traoré. I can help," he said. "But hostage situations are long and complex. Governments, especially France, don't want to appear weak." "We're not terrorists," Youssef said angrily. "We want justice. We fight against the colonialists who bleed Africa dry." Traoré nodded thoughtfully. "Have you considered other ways? Political appeals? International courts?" "We tried that," Youssef said bitterly. "Nobody listened. My brothers have been imprisoned 7 years. We couldn't wait." Traoré formulated a plan. These weren't hardened terrorists. Desperate ideologues. "What's your escape plan if demands are met?" he asked. "Have you thought about how you'll get away?" Youssef and the others exchanged uncertain glances. "We plan to land in Mali and cross the border," Youssef said, voice unsteady. "They'll catch you immediately," Traoré warned. "Special forces will be waiting wherever you land." Fear flickered in Youssef's eyes. Traoré pressed on. "Maybe there's another way. I can mediate. We can bring your cause to an international platform. Without violence." "It's too late," Youssef said grimly. "We've gone down this path. No turning back." "There's always a way back," Traoré said quietly. "But first, the passengers must be safe." A voice crackled over the radio. The French negotiator was back. "Youssef, we're evaluating your demands but need more time to build trust. Can you release some hostages? Children, the elderly?" Youssef hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, we can release the children and elderly, but first we need fuel." "The plane needs fuel for landing," the negotiator said. "Head to Bamako. There you can release the children and elderly." Youssef agreed. Traoré saw the man's inexperience clearly. Landing in Bamako meant losing control. Special forces would be waiting. Once on the ground, an operation was inevitable. The plane changed course toward Bamako. Still in the cockpit, Traoré watched Youssef and the others whisper anxiously. "Are you sure about this?" Traoré asked calmly. "When you land in Bamako, You'll lose control." "What do you mean?" Yusef asked, suspicious. "Special forces will be ready. They'll launch an operation. It will be the end for you and your brothers." Fear showed in Yusef's eyes. "Then what do you suggest?" Traoré knew this moment was crucial. He had to act fast. "First step, change course. Head to Niger, not Mali. French influence is weaker there." "About the hostages. You said you'd release the children and the elderly." Traoré said firmly, "Let's do that. But stay in the air." Yusef nodded slowly. "Then define some real demands." Traoré continued. "Better conditions. For your brothers. A fair trial. Things like that." Yusef hesitated, eyes narrowing. "Why should I trust you? Maybe you're a French agent." Traoré smiled gently. "I'm African, just like you, and believe me, I share your views on France's role in Africa. I just have different methods." His calm logic seemed to impress Yusef. He left the cockpit to consult with his comrades. Now alone with the pilot and co-pilot, Traoré heard a whispered question from the pilot. "Who are you really?" "A Frenchman?" the pilot guessed. "No," Traoré replied. "Just a passenger trying to help." The pilot gave a knowing look. "No, you're different. You speak like someone with military training." Traoré said nothing, just smiled. Minutes later, Yusef and the others returned. "We accept your plan," Yusef said. "We'll head to Niger. We'll stay in the air and release the children." Traoré blinked. "How?" Yusef looked confused. "How what?" "How will you release the children in mid-air?" Traoré pressed. "Parachutes?" Yusef's face revealed he hadn't thought that through. "Maybe there's another way to build trust," Traoré suggested. "Shoot a video showing the children and elderly are safe, and send it." Yusef nodded. It made sense. Traoré was slowly gaining their trust. It was clear their plan hadn't been thought out fully. "We're heading to Niger instead of Mali," Yusef told the negotiator over the radio. "We'll send a video showing the children are well." The negotiator sounded surprised. "I understand, but all preparations were in Mali." "We changed plans," Yusef said sharply. "We'll refuel in Niger. We'll stay airborne until our demands are met." Traoré stepped close to Yusef and spoke quietly. "Now you need to calm the passengers. No panic. Maybe distribute food and water. Show goodwill." Yusef agreed and returned to the cabin. He ordered his men to hand out water and snacks while gathering the children at the front for the video. Traoré moved through the cabin. He caught the anxious eyes of passengers. The elderly woman beside him whispered, "What's happening, my son?" "Negotiations continue," he said calmly. "We're making progress. The children will come forward soon. A video will be made to show they're okay." The children, 6 in total, ranging from 3 to 11 years old, were brought forward. Their mothers tried to soothe them, but fear was visible. Traoré knelt down to their level, speaking softly. "Hello, I'm Ibrahim. What are your names?" One by one, they told him. He smiled reassuringly. "You might feel scared now, but everything will be all right," he said. "Soon we'll make a video so everyone knows you're safe. And then you'll be able to go home." Gradually, the children relaxed. Turning to Yusef, Traoré said, "It's important to comfort them. Scared children mean panicked mothers, and that only makes things worse." Yusef nodded thoughtfully. "Have you done this before?" "I've had crisis management training," Traoré said truthfully, careful not to reveal too much. The video was recorded. The children waved and spoke softly, saying they were fine. The footage was sent to the negotiators. Hours passed as the plane circled over Niger. Fuel was running low. Traoré joined Youssef. What now? The fuel's limited. A decision time is coming. Youssef looked worried. What if they don't meet my demands? Think, Traoré urged. What do you want most? The release of your brothers? That might be unrealistic, but better conditions, a fair trial, international observers. Those are possible. Youssef considered this. Maybe you're right, but if I back down now, all will be wasted. You're not backing down, Traoré said firmly. You're changing strategy. You're being smarter. At that moment, the French negotiator's voice crackled over the radio. Youssef, an update. A commission will be formed to examine the prisoners' conditions. Steps will be taken to improve their treatment, but release is not possible at this time. Youssef looked. What should I do now? Youssef asked, panic flickering in his eyes. This is just the start. Traoré replied calmly. Now you negotiate. The conditions for a safe landing and the release of the hostages. Youssef's voice trembled. What about us? What will happen to us? Traoré realized this man hadn't fully grasped the consequences of what he'd set in motion. They weren't hardened terrorists, just young men driven by ideology. If you resolve this peacefully, it'll work in your favor, Traoré said, firmly. You didn't use violence. You didn't harm anyone. That matters. Youssef and his friends exchanged uncertain looks. Finally, Youssef nodded. Okay. He spoke into the radio. You promised to form a commission and improve conditions. Now let's talk about a safe landing. The negotiator's voice sounded relieved. Of course. You can land at Niamey Airport. Everyone's safety will be ensured. Traoré interjected. Wait. When you land in Niamey, special forces will be waiting. You shouldn't take that risk. Youssef frowned. Then what do you suggest? Instead of Bamako, land in Ouagadougou, Traoré said quietly. In Burkina Faso. It's more neutral. You can continue negotiations there. Youssef looked skeptical. Burkina Faso. Isn't that still under French influence? Traoré smiled. Not anymore. Burkina Faso is following an independent path now. France's grip has loosened. As the plane approached Ouagadougou, Traoré prepared Youssef for the final stage. When you land, you'll be surrounded. He warned, but if you surrender peacefully, no one will harm you. Youssef's voice shook. They'll imprison us. Yes, but you'll live and have a chance to fight for your brother's rights. After a long pause, Youssef nodded. All right, let's land and release the hostages. The plane touched down at Ouagadougou Airport. Special forces stood ready but did not move in. First, the children and elderly were allowed to disembark. Suddenly, Traoré turned to Youssef. Now I want to leave too. Youssef blinked. Why? How can you help us? It was time. Traoré removed his sunglasses and cap. Because I am Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso. Shock flashed across Youssef's face, swiftly replaced by horror. Impossible! It's true, Traoré said calmly. And now I'm here to help. Surrender peacefully, and I guarantee your safety. You'll get a fair trial. Youssef's hand moved toward his gun. Maybe we should keep you as a hostage, Traoré said, unafraid. The most valuable hostage you could have. But think carefully. Outside, special forces are waiting. Harming a head of state won't end well for you. After a long moment, Youssef slowly lowered his weapon. What do you want us to do? Drop your weapons, release the hostages, and exit the plane peacefully with me. I promise you won't be harmed." Reluctantly, Youssef and his comrades agreed. The passengers were informed they could safely disembark. Ibrahim Traoré led the way, with Youssef and his friends following behind. As he stepped out, the special forces were stunned. "Sir, you were on the plane?" an officer exclaimed. "Yes," Traoré answered calmly. "And I've guaranteed these men's safety. They're surrendering peacefully." Hours later, Traoré addressed the press from the presidential palace. "Today," he said, "we saw the difference between terrorism and diplomacy. These young men tried to defend a just cause with wrong methods, but in the end, dialogue and understanding prevailed." When asked why he hadn't revealed his identity sooner, he replied, "Revealing who I was could have complicated things. My goal was to prevent loss of life, and we succeeded." A journalist asked what the experience had taught him. "Violence is never the solution," Traoré said. "Dialogue, understanding, and empathy are our strongest weapons. A true leader lives among his people, as one of them, because real power doesn't lie within palace walls. It lives in the hearts of the people." As the press conference ended, the world was abuzz with admiration for Ibrahim Traoré's courage and wisdom. A crisis had been transformed into a powerful lesson in leadership, and once again, Burkina Faso stood as a symbol of Africa's honor and independence.